Okay, I have the rare treat now of introducing myself. I'm Joe Simpson. I'm the author, founder of Diary of a Tile Addict, the previous editor of Tile and Stone Journal in Tile UK, and I'm going to speak about 3D ceramic facades. I think when most people think about ventilated ceramic facades, the image that comes to mind of sleek, sheer building envelopes formed using large, pale stone effect porcelain tiles mechanically fixed, delivering a crisp contemporary skin. And yes, this is still an important part of the market, typical of the UK projects completed by Shackley, Domus, Schneider, Lindner, and the other main players in the market. But I like to think of a recent trip I took to Portugal, where if you're anywhere probably 5 miles from the coast, and particularly in Porto, you see that ceramic facades, which are largely adhesive applied rather than mechanically fixed, are a really vital part of the built environment in Portugal. And we're starting to see in the UK more and more architects and property managers appreciating the aesthetic and technical benefits that ceramic facades created using smaller, glazed, colourful 3D elements can bring. And as Peter showed, with some of the work that he's doing with the fantastic glazes he produces, they bring a lot to the party. Over the years, I've written extensively about these products. I've tried to get UK specifiers infused with their potential. And in this presentation, I'm largely looking at one range, which is produced by Agrod Buchtal in Germany, and they come in a wide range of different shapes and finishes. This, as I say, Kera shape is the main component, and it really brings small, elegant, thin 3D facades, and it creates a very versatile design element. I think the increasing popularity of systems like this lies in their ability to allow highly stylistic architectural elements, such as translucent or rhythmic building facades, to be created. And you can use them across complete building envelopes or partial ones equally successfully. Agrod Buchtal is one of the pioneers in this area. They offer a lot of different 3D facade ceramics, both for curtain walling type rear ventilator systems, and also for direct insulation on thermally insulated composite systems, or TICs. And why are these facades good? Because they provide a fantastic combination of aesthetic appeal, economic efficiency, and sustainability. I think many designers, more and more designers, are appreciating that the structural separation of the thermal insulation and the weather protection functions can bring a lot to a building. And so this is why systems like Kera shape, which bundle a whole load of different 3D facade elements together, appeals. It has a very distinct design language. And of course, they apart from this kind of design element, they are very practical because they provide great visual and thermal protection. Generally, we're talking about rectangular pieces in lengths up to sort of 1.8 meters. But as Peter showed, there is also now an increasing range of colourful glazed elements that are also available. So 3D shapes and glazes. Basically, you can create whatever kind of facade you want with these. And it is also possible to produce bespoke shapes and sizes, all supporting by technical and economic feasibility analysis But why are architects coming to them? And I think the main reason is the ability to create tone-on-tone design, contrasting colour concepts that are popular as they open up a really interesting way of breaking up large monolithic facades visually so that they appear smaller, less monotonous, and very rhythmic. I will be coming on to various examples of this as we go through, but if we just look at some of the products that they're using, you see that there are some, they're not quite as dynamic as some of Peter's, but interesting glazed facades. They're not just solid colours. There's some bold on-trend colours. And they're being used in a very interesting way alongside glazing to create interesting faceted facades. The first example I'm going to show is a primary school, Carrotswyn, and this is supplied by E.H. Smith, who are the main facade contractor partners with Agrod Buchtal. The idea behind this project was basically to use colours that reflect the seasons and also to provide wayfaring and marking, as well as to provide a separate identity for different year groups. The whole facade is robust, colourful and fireproof, and like a lot of Agrod Buchtal's things, the actual pieces have a self-cleaning glaze called high-tech, which means that when it rains, they are effectively self-cleaning. So you can see here the green striping, the earth tones of the main facade, the lighter yellows. It's a very light, colourful, friendly environment, ideal for a younger school. The next example is from the Tate Gallery in St Ives. Again, Agrod Buchtal, but this one, the tiles here were bespoke glazed in the UK using the specific colour. You can see how it's featured up here. It sits very nicely in the St Ives roofscape. And they've kind of echoed a kind of shiplap thing that you might have seen in wood. And this was shortlisted for a Revet Prize, the Sterling Prize. And I think the great thing about this facade is that it really pays homage, it references the history of ceramic artists in St Ives. And it's a very calm, restful, beautiful, simple architectural solution to what would otherwise be really quite a plain building, because you want a good gallery space on the inside, so plain walls to put in art, but you don't want a dull exterior, and I think they've broken it up beautifully, as they have done here in Finchley Memorial Hospital. And hospitals are one of the main uses where you're finding these glazed ceramic facades. Here, the horizontal rather than the vertical banding and the use of subtle colours, again, it breaks up a big mass and does it very elegantly. I think it's interesting at this one, I mean, you've got the same facade contractor, E.H. Smith, working for Galliford Try, but the architects have actually used a colour designer, and so that Agrod Buchtal's palette has been really explored, and it's quite a subtle use of different blues and green colours. Maybe not the obvious way that you would have done this, but it's on a huge scale, 3,500 ceramic panels and 2,000 rectangular tubes, all glazed, 60 by 60 millimetres. So you're talking something relatively modest to vertically installed in front of it. And you see the other main benefit of these systems is that their ability to work very well on curves, which is a very difficult thing to achieve with a a practical facade, a colourful facade. And I really like the way that these tubular structures, they don't continue in bands down it, they break up colours on the different levels here. So you have a very, very, it's like elongated, pixelated effect. And I think it's a very beautiful solution to what is quite a difficult technical problem. One of the things you'll find with this range is that it has the ability to complement 3D and 2D forms with the same glazed finishes. So basically, you can create a totally bespoke building shell. And being ceramic, the exterior is durable, it's colour fast, and it's offered in a wide range of contemporary colours. So you can have slightly iridescent glazes, which give you a very handcrafted look. And then this authenticity, which is the kind of word that architects are really seeking these days, is underlined by the format, the surfaces, the accentuation through the colour, so that you can really bring something to a project rather than just a surface finish. The high-tech coating that you talked about is available both on glazed and unglazed finishes. And the main benefit is these, as I say, these are self-cleaning. Rainwater washes off surface pollution. Rainwater, it's not repelled, it kind of spreads over the surface, creates a thin film which infiltrates into the dirt and then washes off. High-tech also has antibacterial effects. It decomposes microorganisms such as fungi, algae, moss, and germs. So, it's basically it's the perfect cladding for a hospital environment. The medium as the message. And in Finchley, originally London traffic's a lot better than it used to be, but these facades can also deal with air pollutants such as nitrogen oxides from traffic. So it improves the air quality of the surroundings. And in densely populated cities, this is becoming a feature that's more and more appreciated. Hotels have been one of the main adopters of this. Radisson Blu, who are the keen users of ceramics, at any rate, have adopted this. And it helps to bring a little bit of character, movement, and pizzazz to what is otherwise a pretty basic architectural form. And it's quite a subtle use here of the same technology. But it can be a lot more dramatic. Here, Islington Square's CZWG have really emphasised the curved shapes, the bold colours, the balcony detailing by using a keratin curved facade. This is quite a complex project. Lots of residential and public spaces, lifestyle, dining, leisure, all this kind of thing. And the mauve frame screen is the unifying factor that brings it all together. May not be to everyone's taste, but it's a beautiful demonstration of what you can do with these coloured facades. And then this is a particularly beautiful example, I think. It's a few years old now, 2019. It's the largest special education institute in Helsinki. The building envelope needed to offer protection against excessive solar radiation and heat in order to achieve an energy efficient structure without requiring excessive additional cooling. The architects, Linker architect, did this by using Kera-shaped products on the south and west facades. They're using this is a tubular form 3D glaze, and they used a variety of different colours to create a very naturalistic look. It almost looks like a kind of ceramic sauna kind of effect. The end result is energy saving, noise insulating, weatherproof, and beautiful. And it just shows how these ceramic composite systems can fulfill all the practical requirements of a perfect building shell. And it's easy to see why architects are turning to them in such good numbers. There are just a few points about it. One of the things that we're seeing is it's been used in, as I say, the Tate Gallery at Ades, but it's also featured in the Jerwood Gallery at Hastings, is that architects are appreciating the fact that you can take these standard German components, which have been made to very exacting tolerances, hand glaze them in the UK, and they can be in any Pantone, RAL, or BS colour. So you can create a bespoke facade that kind of matches what you're trying to achieve with the building. You can see why galleries would go for this. In the Jerwood, they've used a whole load of anthracite colours. As say in St Ives, it was a very aquamarine kind of colour. All of these systems basically are constructed using vertical aluminium support rails and brackets, with the tiles connected using rivets or screws secretly. And the sliding points bear horizontal loads only, so they're basically there for taking the wind load. And the fixed points carry both the vertical and the horizontal loads, i.e. the dead weight of the facade. They're thermally broken, and the results are, say, robust, colourful, fireproof, very design flexible. In terms of colour, there are about 15 satin matte finishes available off the shelf, 6 high gloss finishes, 15 stone effects, and then there are a large range of customizable colour options as well. All the glazes are 100% UV resistant, and they are particularly appropriate for using on curved facades. We've seen them used quite a lot now in retail and supermarket spaces. Aldi are a prominent user, but we're also seeing offices, public buildings, and the first few now are starting to appear on domestic homes. So I think it's an area of tiling that's going to grow over the coming years, and that's about it from me. So thank you for listening, and cheers.
My name is Noam. I'm the CEO of Stylib. We're a UK startup. We're just down there in Piss 60, so you can come and find us. I won't be talking about marble or granite or timber or fabric or anything like that. I'll be talking about how we find these products and how these sort of events, we think at least, are changing and becoming digitalized, and how technology is doing all of that. So this is really a conversation about economy and ecology and technology. I am an architect by education, but I'm also a technology fan. I'm a big fan of how technology is shaping the space that I've been working in for the last 10 or 15 years. This space, this integration between design technology and between design workflows is really on fire in latest years. So if you're someone like me that's really been following the different technologies and products that are available out there, you see that there is a lot going on, and I brought a few different examples to show that one. Companies like Bluebeam, that's been around for many, many years, they help coordinate construction plans or design plans, making sure that everyone that's involved in a process is kind of interlinked and connected. Obviously, 3D tools like Rhino plus Grasshopper, that's been the most obvious go-to choice for any architectural student, and it's been taught throughout architectural schools in the world. But also more progressive solutions with companies like Swap, that's been creating design technologies for entire buildings using AI and even construction plans for those. Or another company that's really worth following is Rayon, one of the only companies out there that's putting an alternative for Autodesk and to Revit. Very, very interesting how they do this collaboratively, a bit like Figma. So a couple of weeks ago, we went to Digital Construction Week, just here in the London Excel. And it felt like the industry is able to produce software that does pretty much everything. You tell them, build us this machine or this software that's able to, create a building and save on costs and save on time and make it very pragmatic and user-friendly, etc. And they would tell you, yeah, that's incredible. But then you come to them with a picture like that and you tell them, can you actually help us in finding a product that looks like this? And then all this technology people are looking at you a bit like, we have no idea what you're even talking about. And it feels to us at Stylib that it's such a huge part of the trade and such a huge part of what everyone in the world, in any space ever, is experiencing, the materiality of things, but we don't see any technology in that one. And it's not just about around this style, it can also be around this piece of fabric, for example, or anything else. Timber, natural stone, cork, fabric, carpet tiles, any architectural product and materials in specific we're interested in, but it seems like technology is doing very little for us when trying to find these products. And this talk is really about my kind of perhaps personal experience of how we find these products as architects, as specifiers. And I thought it'd be wise to kind of put this Where's Waldo picture over here, which is my personal experience or maybe my generation experience in finding these products. It's like finding a needle in a bundle of hay. This picture is, by the way, generated by AI. So before we go to what's the process, I'd like to talk about how it used to look like. And I've talked to some people that are much more senior and veteran in this industry than I am about how this process of finding products used to look like. And they were saying, well, look, it's pretty much the same. You had designers that coming up with inspiration, which they might have seen in a magazine or in a hotel they stayed or in a pub, or they just had a reference from a previous project. But back in those days, they'd go to town or to a few limited suppliers, say 20 years ago, and they'd be in a position of pretty much serving everything that was available out there because the number of the suppliers wasn't that enormous, and the suppliers had limited, or let's call it digestible amount of products with them. So designers with fair amount of effort, but still be able to cover the entire market, understand what's available and make their choice for their products. But two super interesting phenomena has happened since. The first one is globalization, and that's not really a surprise to anyone. We've been seeing a lot more product entering the market. So this graph showing you how much is the global export since, what is it, the 1960s, and check out what's happening in 2000. So the rate of growth goes drastically higher. And the second interesting phenomenon is about digitalization. So everyone is online these days. We know that 95% of product discovery today starts online. That means that architects, interior designers don't even go to the showroom or pick up a phone before they go to a supplier's website. But it's not only about online presence, it's also about how much data we have in these websites. And this graph shows how much data is there on the internet since 2006, and check out the growth over here. That means that there is the ability to put a lot more products out there digitally in channels that are actually being used by specifiers everywhere. Now you might go and say, fine, so there is a lot more product, which is wonderful. There's more choices for specifiers, for designers. There are many more channels to get to them. And that's great, right? It's all in our favor. But I would argue, think again. I would argue that that's not really the case. And this is kind of my experience as architect, again, trying to search for these products. So again, I'm still the designer, we're still the designers, and we're searching for something that we have a bit of inspiration for. Let's say a picture that we find online in Pinterest or any other source of inspiration. But now we're not facing a limited number of suppliers. We're facing dozens and even hundreds of different suppliers online. And it's hard to tell which ones make sense, which ones don't, which one have products which is reliable and which ones don't. But to make things more complicated, these suppliers now are no longer limited by infrastructure or physical infrastructure. So since things are online, there is no problem in having 1,000 or 2,000 or even 50,000 products in your catalog. And some of the companies working with us have more than 10,000 products with them. Now, the regulators have seen then all of this happening, and they've been coming up with more aggressive demands about specification, slip resistance and fire rating and sustainability and many more. And the regulations become much more aggressive and much more demanding from specifier. So the experience is, unsurprisingly, again, a bit like Where is Waldo? You try to find a product, and the array of products available to us is now much, much wider. The only thing that we've actually done is moved everything online. It's still equally as inefficient. Now, this leaves designers with two choices. The first one is a time and effort one. That's what I did when I was working for other people in the beginning of my career, which means it's very expensive because you have to pay younger designers. And you compromise other scopes of designs if you really want to cover the market searching for the right products for your project. Obviously, for me back then, that meant late nights. The other approach, which is what I used to do when I had my own business and now is much more cost aware, is to compromise the search. So you no longer search the entire market. You just go for the 2 or 3 different suppliers, you cover their catalog, and you move on from there. But then you're taking the risk of not covering products which are available. And I remember clients coming back to me and telling me, did you find that product? What about this option? And obviously, you're compromising the search, and you might end up with not very happy customers. What a supply is doing about all of this? Not that much. If you go around the show here, everyone would pretty much tell you exactly the same thing. They would still tell you, come to our showroom is great, you have to see it, or come to this exhibition, and here's a catalog, and they fill your basket with catalogs, and they're giving you samples. I remember as an architect getting so many samples, 99% of them end up in the bin, and no, they're not recyclable, and no, they don't actually take them back in the different services out there. So not much has changed in that regard, but also digitally, things haven't really progressed in the last 20 years. So there's very poor searching technology out there in pretty much 100% of the cases. So we all know the experience of searching through website pages and going to number 2 and number 3 and number 25 in the pages. There are no design tools anywhere. So the ability to see 2 different products at the same time or to compare between products, that's not something that's available for us specifiers designers. And finally, there is limited information online. So there is a lot of pictures, but it's not backed up by information about the product, such as EPDs or sustainability, fire rating, slip resistance, thickness, recycled content, etc. Now, all of that simply doesn't cope with who specifiers are today. And I can talk about digitally native specifiers, so people from my generation, millennials or Gen Zers, that are born with a phone in their hand, and they are very, very digitally oriented. That's more than 50% of specifiers today. And everything we just talked about doesn't really cope with the way that they work. And obviously, this trend is going to continue and progress. The second trend is remote work. So this is a survey from Architects Journal from last week showing you that more than 70% of architects are working from home at least part of the time. That means that the traditional material libraries are inefficient, they're ineffective for us specifiers. And third is about no salespeople. So my generation onwards is interested in a sales rep-free experience, and that's in a B2B environment. So that means professional specifiers looking for professional product. And it only gets to more extreme when we're talking to younger people, not interested to talk about salespeople. So I've been giving a rather daunting description of the situation so far, but what we're trying to do in Stylib is to put an alternative for all of that, and I'm trying a couple of slides show how is that different. We believe that material discovery or material search should be fast, simple, with tools that make sense for designers and sustainable. I'll start by talking about what fast and simple means, and for us it's about intuitivity, or the ability to move from these inspiration images that we talk to products from a vast amount of suppliers. So in this example, we've taken just an image online, we've moved it to our search engine, and what our technology does is searches that image for different architectural surfaces and comes up with product recommendations from dozens of different suppliers like Domus over here. Designers can then say, like in this fabric example, so the algorithm understands that it's a fabric, So designers can say we're interested in a sustainability criteria and reduce it, but they can also, for example, work circularly. So here in this example, we started with this back wall, and now we're saying, hold on a minute, we found this product as well, which is very interested. Can you give me that as a search input? With a click of a button, this is becoming our search input, and that's now the search criteria. So that's what we normally say, fast, simple, and intuitive for designers. The second bit is about tools for designers, the ability to compare between products and to curate them together. So what we're trying to do in Stylib is to allow designers not just to say, right, this is an interesting product combination, and now I need to do a lot of work around it. Designers working with us can take that inspiration image, and let's say that this is just this example here, which is a combination of a carpet and a wall, and they can say, okay, let's see these two products together. Let's put them on a table together so we can share them and we can export them and we can get more information from the different suppliers. So I'm starting to collect this print product from Farah & Ball together with a carpet from Target. And now it's a digital mood board. So that means I don't need to download all this information. I don't need to bring it into a design software, to export it to a PDF, to put it in an email, to send it to my client, to get an approval. In our vision, everything is online. All the supplier information, the product information online. I can share it with my customer and with my associates in a click. And I can also get more information in another click from all of the suppliers rather than talking to them individually one by one. Everything is happening in the centralized location. And the third aspect I'd like to talk about today is about sustainability. And I'm not talking about the product sustainability because this is the designer's job and they will do it one way or another. I'm talking about how we manage all this information. I started my architectural journey with very big material showrooms and material libraries within the practices I worked with. But that's not sustainable because it requires us to keep hands-on and a lot of knowledge about the suppliers and the products that we're working with all of the time. What we're doing in Stylib is creating personalized material libraries which are completely digital. That means designers can go and not only curate the different product combinations that they like, and here is an example of my different product combinations that I'm interested in, but they can also like different products and go back to them time after time. And they can also like the favorite suppliers and go back to those time after time. And by doing that, documenting what's our practice information around products and materials in general. That's it. It's just the beginning of the way for us at Stylib, but I think very promising. Feel free to come to our stand at P60 again to see some more information and a better demo. Thanks.